Morning, everybody. Up and at 'em. Mike's MMA Picks here with your Fight Morning Quick Card Breakdown, brought to you by BetDSI as well as MMA Oddsbreaker. Today we head to Norfolk, Virginia for a card that's headlined by Deiveson Figueiredo and Silva-Benavidez. It's a shame that Figueiredo missed weight, came in at 127.5 pounds. We also had another fighter who missed weight by a substantial margin in Minner-Dawson, came in at 149.5 pounds. We'll get into that in a minute. Let's start with the first fight of the night. We've got Ismail Naurdiev taking on Sean Brady. Sean Brady comes in with an unblemished record at 11-0. 7,600 plus 105 underdog. 27 years of age. Ismail Naurdiev, 19-3, the Austrian Wonder Boy. 8,600 in DraftKings, minus 125 favorite. Ismail Naurdiev got back on track after we saw what Chance Rencounter did to him, took him to the ground, nullified him, drained him. Came back with a impressive victory in his last time out. When I watched Sean Brady, though, very high fight IQ, lots of decisions on his record, isn't a big risk taker, has a stable base, black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Reminds me of a Eddie Alvarez light without the power, and doesn't take big risks. We saw him in his last fight out against Court McGee, and the tide started to turn on Sean Brady late. In this case, Naurdiev, explosive, dynamic, takes risks. This fight is expected to go to a decision at minus 250. Naurdiev, only 23 years of age, still growing. I noticed a height discrepancy at the weigh-in. Naurdiev also has a reach advantage. Naurdiev looked to be the larger fighter. If this fight does head to the ground, Naurdiev may be in trouble, but we also saw what he did against Michel Prazeres, and that was very impressive. Naurdiev spending time with Henry Hoof these days, switched things up. I liked seeing that. I'm going to be picking Ismail Naurdiev to get a decision victory here. Next up, we've got in the men's 145-pound division, we'd have Alan Cruz taking on Spike Carlyle. Spike Carlyle coming in here on short notice, 7,300 in DraftKings plus 160. Alan Cruz, 8,900 minus 185 over at BetDSI. This fight is expected to go to a decision at minus 160. We haven't seen Alan Cruz since his Contender Series bout where he scored an impressive flying knee knockout. Has solid stand-up, has significant reach advantage here, 7 inches. Spike Carlyle, risk taker, durable. He has a split decision loss on his record. One thing that impressed me when taping this fight and hearing interviews, Alan Cruz really did his homework on his opponent here. He shared that Carlyle is a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, a black belt in Judo, that he has big power. He knows that this fight is a short notice fight for his opponent, and this is a solid chance at a victory. I don't like the price tag on Cruz at 8,900. I see this fight playing out at distance. Carlyle doesn't have the best striking defense, tends to walk into strikes. If this fight does hit the ground, I think Carlyle will have an advantage there, but I think this is going to play out on the feet unless Carlyle forces the action and puts himself in a situation where the fight ends up on the ground. I'm going to be picking Alan Cruz to come out with a decision victory here. Next up, we have men's 145-pound division, where we have a fight between two erratic, explosive fighters between TJ Brown and Jordan Griffin. Jordan Griffin, 8,500 in DraftKings. Wily veteran, 17-7 record, fighting out of Rufus Sport. Minus 125 at the betting window. He has 2 losses back-to-back of the UFC. One to Chaz Skelly, where Chaz Skelly was controlling him on the ground, but we saw the great cardio of Jordan Griffin, the native psycho. He also has a loss to Dan Ige. On the other side of the fight, we've got TJ Brown, who has a 14-6 record. Looks like a world beater on tape, but then you look at the level of competition that he was facing, and then you understand why things are happening there. 29 years of age, 7,700 in DraftKings, plus 105 underdog. Many early finishes for TJ Brown. He's got a heck of a head kick. I'm not sure if Jordan Griffin's going to be there by the time that head kick arrives at the destination. Jordan Griffin is always moving. He's in perpetual motion here. This fight isn't expected to go to a decision at minus 125. TJ Brown is on a 4-fight finish streak. I do think that this fight is going to end inside the distance, and I'm actually going to be picking the underdog TJ Brown to get the job done. I just think that Jordan Griffin tends to, even though he finds himself in an opportunistic position, he ends up giving up position, and I see that happening here, and TJ Brown capitalizing on it in this spot. So give me TJ Brown to win this fight. And in the last fight, I wanted to just mention that Alan Cruz has a 7-inch reach advantage, and I think that that's going to be a huge factor in that matchup. Next up, we've got heavyweights on our hands. We've got an aging heavyweight in Marcin Tybura coming in at $8,000 in DraftKings, minus 103 at the betting window, taking on Sergey Spivak. Spivak, 8,200, minus 117. We saw Sergey Spivak get his block knocked off by Walt Harris a few fights ago. Walt Harris, dangerous man to be fighting these days. That should be one heck of a matchup when he takes on Alistair Overeem. Sergey Spivak, the polar bear, has a win over Tai Tuivasa, which, I'll be honest, doesn't say much these days. Tai Tuivasa fell completely off the map. Now I believe he switched camps and is at AKA. So hopefully that changes things. Tuivasa's still a very young fighter. But Tybura, solid ground game. Has lost 4 of his past 5 fights. Was durable. I mean, you saw, look at the hellacious blows that he was absorbing against Derek Lewis. He ended up crumbling, but he took tremendous damage before going down. Tybura can unleash power in spurts. dropped the ball against Arlovsky. We've seen him drop the ball against Augusto Sakai, Abdurakhimov, and he's not getting any younger. In this spot, Spivak looked like death on the scales against Tuivasa, but what you look like on the scales doesn't necessarily translate what happens in the fight. Give me Spivak to be the more aggressive fighter in this spot, to be landing the better striking, and to push the pace. This fight, the under 2.5 rounds, is at -128. That may be a decent play. Tough fight to call here between two low-level heavyweights. This is a spot I have to go with the youngster, Spivak. I think he, at this stage in his career, has more in the tank, and Tybura is nearing the end of his road. Next up, we head to the middleweight division, where we have a hotly debated contest when it comes to MMA Twitter, and it may be the same inside the octagon. We've got Tom Breese taking on Brendan Allen. We haven't seen Tom Breese in a couple of years. He's only fought once in the past 4 years. 8,300 for Tom Breese, -122 favorite at BetDSI. Made his pro debut at 18 years of age. Now is 28 years old, taking on Brendan Allen, who is only 24. Recently received his black belt, 7,900 in DraftKings, +102 underdog at the betting window for Brendan Allen. Brendan Allen is going to be looking to somehow, some way find the back of Tom Breese, but Tom Breese is also a black belt. Tom Breese 11-1 record. Only loss was to Sean Strickland. Tom Breese, solid boxing, high fight IQ, isn't much of a risk taker. He looks to, if he finds himself on the ground, on his back, he will look to try to secure leg locks and scramble out of positions here. Brendan Allen, in his interviews, knows that that is coming. I see holes in Brendan Allen's stand-up. He's a very large man. Both of these guys very big. 3.5-inch reach advantage for Brendan Allen. Brendan Allen's going to be at a striking disadvantage here. He is a lunatic in there at times. When you watch him, he's looking to force action, force scrambles where he ends up transitioning to the back. Problem is, we've seen it in his last UFC fight. He can be sloppy. If he isn't able to secure a body lock, he can get reversed. And this fight isn't expected to go to a decision at -145. I see Tom Breese getting the better of Brendan Allen at distance. When Brendan Allen tries to close the distance, I see Tom Breese, although he doesn't empty the tank, he seems like he doesn't have energy regulation issues. He can go 3 rounds. This is a guy who fought at welterweight, and we've seen him struggle against smaller fighters in Akita Nakamura. But that fight was 4 years ago, and I realized there are times when you can't trust what you haven't seen. And I've spoken to Tom Breese a couple of years ago. We're aware of the anxiety issues, the heart rate situation. When he's inside of the octagon, this is a guy who performs. Granted, the last time out, he did beat a aging veteran in Mr. Kelly. But in this spot, Tom Breese, I believe, does have some value at -122, even if you got him at -130. I'll be picking Tom Breese to get the victory in this spot. think Brendan Allen, if he doesn't get the submission in this spot, I think he's going to lose this fight. Tom Breese has more paths to victory in this spot. Give me Tom Breese. Next up, we have a interesting matchup between 135-pounders. We've got Kyler-Phillips taking on Gabriel Silva. Gabriel Silva, 8-1 record, younger brother of Eric Silva, former UFC vet. Gabriel Silva, 8,400, minus 121 at the betting window. Both of these guys have a 71-inch reach. Kyler-Phillips fights out of the MMA lab, known as the Matrix. 6-1 record for Kyler-Phillips. We saw him take on Brad Katona, part of the Ultimate Fighter. 7,800 plus 101 for Kyler-Phillips. This should be a closely matched fight. Minus 170 that this fight goes to a decision. Gabriel Silva, although Kyler-Phillips has been doing jiu-jitsu since he was 3 years old and seems to be the more well-rounded fighter, Gabriel Silva, in my eyes, I think control is going to be a major factor in this fight. Control on the ground. Gabriel Silva, to me, seems like the stronger fighter with better endurance in this spot. And I think that we're going to see a number of scrambles, but Gabriel Silva is going to be able to keep pace with Phillips and win 2 of 3 rounds for a majority decision. So give me Gabriel Silva to win that fight. Next up, we have a short notice replacement bout. We've got Luis Pena, who has fought at 155 pounds. This guy, huge for the division, 6'3". He's going to be coming in with a significant reach advantage over Steve Garcia Jr. Steve Garcia, $7,000 in DraftKings, the last fighter added to the slate in DraftKings. Garcia's coming off of a victory in 2020. He's coming in as the plus 230 underdog, coming in with a 4-fight win streak. He's said that he's not in fight shape, which is a guy who tells you the truth. This is a guy, Garcia, who has fought at 135 pounds. He's fighting a Luis Pena who cuts massive weight to get to 155 pounds. There should be a significant size discrepancy. We've seen Luis Pena. He took what I thought was a decision loss. I don't want to say a clear decision loss, but in my eyes, it was a decision loss to Matt Frevola. I had Matt Frevola winning that fight. So that shook up Luis Pena's world. He ended up leaving AKA and headed to American Top Team. Luis Pena is still only 26 years of age. Steve Garcia is a handful. He is a dynamic striker. Reminds me a little bit of Carlos Condit, a young Carlos Condit out there when he fights, though. This is somebody who has an 11-3 record, fighting also out of Jackson Wink. I wish we would be able to see a fight between Steve Garcia and Kyler-Phillips. Luis Pena, I just think the size is going to play a factor here. I think Garcia, believe it or not, is going to have some... I don't think he's going to have cardio issues in this fight, but I just think that Luis Pena, his size, his length, is going to be the issue for Garcia. I think that's going to be the difference maker. So give Steve Garcia another shot. Give me Luis Pena to win this fight. Next up, we have on the main card, Grant Dawson taking on Derek Minner. Derek Minner, 24-10 record. Look at his record. Only gone to a decision 3 times in 34 fights. Wild man, throws hooks, locks up many submissions, gets submitted. 6,900 in DraftKings for Minner, plus 370 at the betting window. Grant Dawson, 14-1 record, came in and looked like crap at the weigh-ins, 149.5. Makes you wonder what went wrong during his weight cut. 9,300 minus 470. I think if he does win this fight, he will be worth the 9,300 because this is a guy who has James Krause in his corner, pushes a hellacious pace. He's going to be the bigger fighter here. He, in interviews, has shared that the first 2 minutes of this fight is going to be very dicey. And once he gets through that, Minner should break. And I agree with him in this spot. First couple of minutes, very dangerous. Minner's going to be looking to either lock up a submission or get Grant Dawson out of there via knockout. But I think the tables are going to turn the later this fight goes. Once we hit the second round, Dawson should be able to. This is a guy who's coming off of an 18-week fight camp. Was supposed to fight Chaz Skelly, ran into USADA issues, etc. And Dawson, great pace, great wrestling. He's got a submission game. And he's someone who, when I was researching for the Chaz Skelly fight, he's not afraid to come out and say he doesn't have fight-ending power, but that he will pour it on, and it's going to be an accumulation of strikes. And for DraftKings, that is what you want. It depends on who you have. Call in the fight metric game. What are they counting as significant strikes? So Grant Dawson, he's a guy who, if he gets on top of you, he's going to be peppering you with strikes. And I think that's what's going to happen here. I think Grant Dawson is going to get the job done inside the distance. And inside the distance was sitting at around, actually it opened at minus 141, was up to minus 240, minus 250. I think that's a play to look at. Grant Dawson wins inside the distance. Next up, we have Megan Anderson taking on Norma Dumont. Very dangerous fight when it comes to picking a side here. You've got, it's amazing that Megan Anderson, 30 years old, but I still think she's very low level. This is 145-pound women's division. Interesting. James Krause has spent years with her. And she still has enormous holes in her game, especially on the ground. 9,100 in DraftKings for Megan Anderson, minus 240 favorite. Taking on Norma Dumont, who is coming in at 7,100 in DraftKings, plus 205 underdog. I do think Dumont is a live dog here, although she's somebody who has typically fought at 135 pounds. Came in at, I believe, 141 a few fights ago. Turned pro in 2016. She's never fought at 145 pounds before. I wish the UFC would scrap this division and keep the men's flyweights because it's ridiculous that we have to put up with these fights. This fight is expected to end inside the distance at minus 195 and may be relevant when it comes to DraftKings. Megan Anderson should have a huge advantage in the stand-up, but Dumont will have the grappling edge. Let's see if Dumont can get this fight to the ground. I see Dumont eating elbows as she tries to get this fight to the cage and then to the ground. Megan Anderson coming in with a 5-inch reach advantage. She has a reach advantage over any fighter that she fights, and I'm going to take Megan Anderson to win this fight. Although I'm very hesitant to say that because I think that Dumont is a live dog here, even though we've got limited tape on her. I don't rate Megan Anderson very highly. We've got a banger up next in the light heavyweight division. We've got Magomed Ankalaev. Ankalaev, 12-1 record, 75-inch reach, taking on Ankalaev-Cutelaba out of Moldova. 15-4 record for Cutelaba. Somehow, someway, Cutelaba is still only 26 years of age. He's been in the UFC for ages now. 7,200 for Cutelaba, which is, I think, man, if you're playing GPPs, keep an eye out for Cutelaba because he will throw the kitchen sink at his opponents early and can have success. He has solid boxing, solid Greco-Roman wrestling, but his he runs into problems when he's up against high-level jiu-jitsu fighters, and also he's run into problems in the past against fighters who have legitimate ground games. So in this spot, Ankalaev, he's cerebral in there. $9,000 for Ankalaev, minus 210 favorite. This fight is expected to end inside the distance at minus 195. I was a believer in Cutelaba last time out against Khalil Rountree, and also when he fought Glover Teixeira. It's a shame he didn't have enough in the tank to put Teixeira out of there, because that first round, man, every first round, he's a dangerous fighter. Cutelaba is a killer, but Ankalaev knows what's coming. I think Ankalaev is going to be defensively sound and make Cutelaba pay and end this fight in the latter portion of the second round, either by submission or via TKO. I will say Cutelaba is a live dog in any fight, and I wouldn't mind seeing folks sprinkle in some Cutelaba into their portfolio, but I got to go with Ankalaev here to pull out the victory. All right, let's head to the co-main event of the evening. Can you believe it? 2020. What on God's green earth was the UFC thinking when they put together this co-main event between Felicia Spencer and Silva-Phillips? Silva-Phillips 6-3 record, purple belt in jiu-jitsu, 6,800 in DraftKings, 9,400 for Felicia Spencer, minus 825 favorite for Felicia Spencer. This fight, believe it or not, fight does not go the distance. Opened up at minus 155, now up to minus 300. 5-inch reach advantage for Silva-Phillips, plus 575. Underdog for Silva-Phillips here, 33 years of age, taking on a Felicia Spencer who is only 29 years old. We saw how tough she is against Cyborg and how she was able to basically make it a rout against Megan Anderson. What concerns me, in her pre-fight interviews, she shared that she wants to test her striking out and she's not going to rush a submission. I hope she is lying, because she has a huge grappling edge in this spot. I hope she pushes Fairn against the cage, secures that takedown, and locks up a submission victory. If she doesn't, she could be playing with fire on the feet. So you look at Spencer's build. Not many fighters in the UFC, not many female fighters are built like her. Cast iron jaw, very thick throughout her entire body, and she has a great top game, and she's able to lock up submission. So Felicia Spencer inside the distance by submission. Take a look at it, and I think she'll be a solid DraftKings play. The only issue is when you're dealing with women's fighters. I've noticed through the years that there are certain fighters in certain weight classes where you see people come out and aren't very consistent. Especially you look at people who have 8 professional fights to their resume. So just proceed with caution. There's a reason she's a minus 825 favorite, but that's a very high price to pay, and there are no certainties in this game. Next up, we have the main event of the evening between Deiveson Figueiredo and Joseph Benavidez. Joseph Benavidez has been around the block, 28-5, professional record. Figueiredo, one loss to his record when he fought Jussier Formiga. We saw holes in his grappling game in that spot. Figueiredo, a black belt, 7,400 in DraftKings for Figueiredo. Incredible value on him in DraftKings, plus 130 at the betting window. Joseph Benavidez, 8,800, minus 150 favorite. We've seen Benavidez get down to minus 125 at some books. This fight is expected to go to a decision at minus 140, but I love flyweight fights, and this spot is no different. We saw Figueiredo come in at 127.5 pounds. He was stopped by the doctors trying to make weight. This fight I see playing out two ways. We saw Figueiredo lock up a guillotine against Tim Elliott a few fights ago, but I think that the power is going to be something that Benavidez has to worry about. And the other way I see this fight ending is Benavidez just being the much quicker fighter on the ground and controlling Figueiredo for the majority of rounds. If you have time, I know it's fight morning and we don't have many hours to go until the card starts, but cue up Dustin Ortiz against Joseph Benavidez. Watch the scrambling that took place in that fight. Figueiredo can be controlled on the ground. His get-up game is an issue, and I think that is going to be a difference maker here. Benavidez, 35 years of age, but then you also look at Figueiredo. A lot of people are saying that he's a much younger fighter. He's got three less years. There's more mileage on Benavidez. Benavidez has had his chin cracked before, and I was on Alex Perez against Joseph Benavidez, and styles make fights here. I have a tremendous run at flyweight fights throughout the years, picking these fights, and this fight is a very closely lined fight for a reason. We may be playing with fire here, but I am going to be picking Benavidez to win this fight, and I think the scrambling nature of Joseph Benavidez is going to be the difference maker. If he does not get knocked out, if he stays conscious, Benavidez should win this fight. Figueiredo, during the fight week for his fight against Formiga, he cut almost 40 pounds. I believe it was 39 pounds leading up to that fight. That is a tremendous amount of weight to cut, and he was stopped by the doctors. There is no title on the line in this fight. Benavidez, in my eyes, is the more seasoned fighter with more tools. The chin, though, is an issue. Give me Joseph Benavidez to win this fight. And the later the fight goes, I think, if the fight gets into the 4th and 5th round, we're going to see Benavidez run away with this. So give me Benavidez to win this fight. That's it, folks. Want to wish everybody a great fight day. You can follow me at betmma.tips as well as CapperTech. Keep an eye out for MMA Odds Breaker in the future. We'll be putting out the occasional premium pick for myself. Good luck in your DraftKings plays today. And also, I just want to thank everybody for supporting the cause and being with us throughout the years here. This is a long game here, and we take one fight at a time, one card at a time. Remember, folks, go get what's yours. This is your time.